Ba-da-ba-bum-bam. Banger Management Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Woo!
Woo! I felt a little accent
Great.
there, Jakey.
I don't know. I felt something happen that was totally out of my control, and I was like, what sounds did I just make?
It just rolls off the tongue, but not in a comfortable way, you know?
I was as surprised as you are. So
Speaking of roll off the tongue, how do you feel about Tootsie Rolls? Yay or nay?
I don't think I've thought about Tootsie Rolls in a decade.
I watched a ranking of a tier-based ranking of candy the other day, and that person had put Tootsie Rolls pretty high because they're very unique in terms of what they're doing, and they stay in their own lane. You know, it's just they're not trying to compete with anything. It's just we're Tootsie Rolls, and you like us or you don't. I kind of appreciate that.
I guess they're not my favorite. I would say.
Yeah.
I wonder. I mean, if you were putting this in the same category as Kit Kat or Coffee Crisp or Smarties,
Kit Kat's S tier. Kit Kat's.
You know that they don't. Yeah, they are. The Kit Kats are just elite. You know they don't have Smarties in the States, or they are different.
That's messed up. That's $8 right there. That's just That's worse than not having Ruffles all dressed.
That's also a big one. I mean, to be fair, the States have a lot of things that we don't have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who wants a Butterfinger anyways, you know?
No,
Butterfinger apparently is elite, I've heard.
My friend got this spicy honey thing to put on pizza from Trader Joe's.
Okay.
You had honey on pizza,
of course.
Right? There's but there's this spicy honey thing, and it's actually life-changing.
From Pizza Tony type of vibe?
Yes, it's just insane though. The one from Trader Joe's is nuts. They just have a few things, and all the fast food places. My God.
No, let's not get into fast food because that'll be a whole conversation. But maybe in the offseason we do some tier rankings or something. That could be some fun.
That's
content.
a good idea.
Yeah,
we should do that. We have a lot of stuff to say. Aside from fantasy hockey, we are pretty big food enthusiasts.
Yes, so I just do need everybody to know that S tier chocolate is Kit Kat or caramel, and S tier candy is Sour Patch Kids at the number one spot for me. That's just, I feel that's the only good answer.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, today our week 23 hot topics and mailbag episode. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there. If you're watching on YouTube, give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. We truly appreciate all the support, continued support, and those who've been with us all year. It's awesome. We love you guys. Thank you so much. All of the socials are in the podcast description, and the link to the Discord community is there as well. Great time to join. Either you're fighting it out in the finals right now, week 23, or you're battling to try to get into the semis. Yep. We're still active in the Discord, especially Kevin.
Or fighting into the finals.
Fighting, yes, that's what I meant to say. Sorry. Anyways, but it's a hectic time in fantasy hockey, really down to the wire in many leagues. So keep at it. You're never out, and join the Discord community. Interact with us in the community over there. So great place to be.
My full-time job is answering questions in the Discord right now. It's like night and day. It's everybody's obviously feeling the pressure and the desperation. It's teams that have been one loss the whole year are coming down to the finals and going to lose against a team that shouldn't even be there type of thing. So it's rough. We feel the pressure and everything that comes with that. Josh feels it so much that he's actually leaving Montreal to drive back to where he lives near. I always forget the exact city, but it's near Philly, right?
Yeah.
I guess near. He's best buds with Matvei Michkov now, so it's.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so let's start off with our hot topics for this week.
Mm-hmm.
Do you wanna list them off?
We got 3 hot topics today, and honestly, guys, we're near the end of the season. It's so hard to find things that are gonna have any longevity to them, right? So we're gonna talk about some specific instances here, but Frundell of Chicago, he has been a hot topic in himself because I picked him up in the semis, and he started 2 games. He had 2 points, and then the main thing with him though is that first of all, I heard that in his draft class he was the most athletic and in shape person. Like he had the highest ranked VO2 max of
Unlike
all.
Matvei Michkov.
Yeah, unlike Matvei Michkov, the juxtaposition is insane. But he's just been like nuts, and his playing time is like increased significantly every game he plays. He's playing with Connor Bedard. He's also on line one. Like it really feels like he's kind of like a end of season darling here. So if you can make use of him in your finals, like he's a name there. But it's just mainly like how do we feel about him? How do we feel about Chicago? And looking forward to next year too. Like, is he going to be, the missing piece for maybe Bedard's partner in crime that we've kind of been searching for the last few years?
I anticipate that's going to be the case, but it's going to come in waves. So, like, for instance, I'm in a league that's a keeper league, and one of the teams is kind of like out of the playoffs already has him. I was like, oof, like, can I go pick him up? So it's really like one of those things that if you're banking on next year, I have no idea how it's going to go, but I do anticipate that looking how good they were this year when Bedard was playing, they were a fringe playoff team while he was healthy, and then unfortunately had that injury, and everything went to
$8 fan poop.
After exactly that's our shortened version of this word. Anyway, all this to say, we only can really focus on this year, and there's many instances of good players from European leagues or rookies or whatever it is coming in and shaking things up. I think that Chicago is just kind of playing to get the most out of their talent right now, and Frondell is going to be front and center there. I expect him to be line one with Bedard and power play one for the rest of the year.
I mean, week 24, they don't have the exceptional schedule. They only have 5 games, so you kind of would hope for like at least 6. But I still think like if you're in a really deep league, like our league of record is very deep. Like he was one of the only guys that was available on waivers at the time when I picked him up that had some like line 1 PP1 exposure. So I like him for the exposure. In his third game that he played, in the lineup, he played over 20 minutes, and he played the most minutes out of any forward on the team, which is crazy for a guy that just got brought up, right? So I just think that he has a huge engine, and he can play big minutes. He's playing minutes with the best players on this team, and so just a lot to look forward to. So if you're in a really, really deep league, I think he's a name that you can definitely keep an eye on. And going into next year, I'm like really excited about what he can do. I just wonder if he's going to be like, if they're going to put him more at center or playing on the wing, because I think a 1-2 punch in the middle of like Bedard and Nazar is going really well. Would they want him as a 3C or a potential, winger partner for Bedard? I think that is the most likely case, and I think next year it'll be interesting to see where he goes in drafts.
I think it's going to be a winger partner for sure. That's my guess. I mean, it will change at some point, but the majority of the year and the reason he's there, I think, is to have it. I remember there was like, how they do those like NHL simulations, kind of like how like their career is going to shake out. Apparently, Frondell had, like, aside from Schaefer, by far the most elite trajectory of the 2025 draft class. So according to this video game, he's going to be sick. but otherwise, I think he could be really good. And the last thing I'll add to this is that he came from the Swedish league. He did not come from playing in like, a junior hockey league, the OHL or the Q or anything. That means that he's been playing against actual grown men
tough
this whole year. And it's one thing to dominate among your age group, it's another thing to be able to do well among a group of people who are similar in age and everything to the NHL. The SHL, the Swedish Hockey League, is not like the NHL. It's not as strong, but it is still one of the most competitive leagues in the world, and he had 28 points in 43 games, meaning I think he's ready to play at this level. And for the duration of the season, like for the rest of the season, I do think he's going to do well.
Yep, I agree.
All right.
Another I would say surprise that we need to talk about is Dylan Garand of the New York Rangers. Now listen, it's only been a few games that he's played, but he's honestly looked exceptional on a New York Rangers team that is honestly like really bad right now. I mean, they're obviously not trying to win games at the end of the season. But Igor's ahead of him, and I'm not saying that he's the new starter or whatever, but like Garanda's looked nice, and some coaches asked for, what the reporters asked the coach like what they feel about him, and they were like, "Do you think he deserves like more starts going into this end of the season, right? Like just kind of find out what you have. Like, is he the potential backup next season? Like we don't really know. Like Quick is injured right now, but next year, like what does it look like?" And I'm very interested to see what kind of happens here. Like I didn't know much about him going into this. I just know that he's played 2 games, and like the last game that he played against Chicago was exceptional. So how do you kind of feel about him? I feel like we don't really have the most knowledge on his prospect profile and what the general expectations are, but I'm excited from what I've seen thus far.
Yeah. So the reason I think that this is a hot topic is like a few things external to just Garan's performance, which by the way has been fantastic. I mean, he's played only 2 games,
Yeah.
but he had a 9.46 and a 9.64.
Yeah.
So that's
Nuts.
tremendous. Yeah, and the Rangers do have a good schedule over the next 2 weeks of fantasy, aka 2.5 weeks of real hockey. I don't anticipate that this is going to be a Frondell like situation where going into next year I have any interest.
Mhm.
So I'll just kind of say that.
Yeah.
But for the rest of the year, I mean, why overwork Igor, who is their guy, and he's paid as the guy, and even though they were an $8 poop storm this whole year, the Rangers, like they are depending on him to be
Yep.
their goalie of the future.
This episode comes out on Thursday. They have a back-to-back on Saturday, Sunday versus the Red Wings and the Capitals. So obviously we're expecting him to get one of those games, but I would not be surprised if we see him get the odd game here that's not a back-to-back, just because give him more playing time, see what happens, and you don't need to work Igor into the ground right now either, right, with how the season is going. So
yeah. No, it's possible that, like, I mean, best case scenario, he gets 50% of the starts. Otherwise, I'd say he gets like, on a 4-game week, I think he's gonna get. I think he could get 2. Honestly, it's possible. It's possible how that's going to shake out.
I mean, the thing is, in week 24, they have 2 games in the first week, and then the week after they only have 2 games as well. So they have the worst playoff schedule for week 24.
Right,
which is why they had
week 21 to 23 was sick.
Week 20 to 23 was sick. Like they had 4 games in every one of those weeks. So I wonder if he ends up splitting those games, like 4 games, maybe gets 2 of them. It'd be curious to see. But do you feel very comfortable starting him in a spot start at this point? Like I feel like the sample size suggests yes.
Yeah, I mean it is 2 games, but it's like the spot starts are difficult to find. I mean, if you listen to the waivers episode that came out on Sunday, the spot starts that were suggested are Fowler, Shelovs, and Husso. I think there's a world in which if Garand is confirmed for one of the games, he could be in that conversation.
Yeah, for like the Saturday Sunday back to back.
Yeah, there you go. So that's we'll see how it shakes out. Okay. Let's move on. This is a big hot topic.
Yeah.
This one we'll spend a bit of time on. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm calling it the battle of the East and the West, because we have like sincere playoff battles, still in the mix right now. I mean, we're roughly halfway through week 23, and teams are still trying to fight to make the playoffs. So they were recording this slightly before, and I mean, off your gut instinct, who do you think out of the East is not making the playoffs? 2 teams are not going to make it right now.
Okay, so not making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, are we talking like every team? Okay, so
the teams that are Rangers in the conversation are
okay.
Montreal is still technically in the conversation. Columbus and Pittsburgh are still technically in the conversation. Boston, the Islanders, Ottawa, and Detroit. So these are 2 of those teams are not making the playoffs.
So Philly, like we're
I'm confident in saying Philly is not making the playoffs.
All right,
JK, come on, you can't.
No, I agree.
JK just loves Michkov so much.
Yeah, that's it. For all Josh's hate towards Michkov, I gotta balance it out somehow. So, I think of the teams that are not going to make the playoffs. You're saying that it's 2 of them. There's 2 of them
out of the 6 I listed, 2 of them are not making the playoffs. So which 2 is that going to be?
This may be such a brutal take, but I think it's going to be Ottawa and Pittsburgh.
You think Pittsburgh's not making the playoffs?
Yeah,
that'd be devastating.
And the only reason, only because of the injuries.
Yeah,
like it's like they're not keeping Crosby out. or Malkin out if they have a choice. And honestly, like I don't really trust their goaltending at this stage, and I think that the team's success really depends on those two players. So
I mean, they've
I
held
love
down the
Pittsburgh
fort
to
in the
make it.
past when those guys were missing games earlier this season.
Yeah,
So I don't
but
think it's a complete like long shot, but definitely harder.
yeah. Hey, and by the way, I want Pittsburgh to make it. I really, really do. This is the last dance part 2,
Yep.
as we alluded to on a previous episode. But realistically, Carolina, Buffalo, Tampa Bay are absolute locks. So we're
At this
talking
point, yeah,
three
it's
of
like over 90% chance they make the playoffs.
yeah, 3 of the 8 playoff teams are like, a lock, and then I think it could go the other way. I think Boston's just been too good too, and so are and the Islanders. I really like their acquisitions. Actually, I think that they're a very solid team now
Mm-hmm.
with a great goalie. So yeah, I think if I had to guess, uh, Pittsburgh's going to be at the short end of the stick. And who did I say? Pittsburgh, Ottawa.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think I'm going the Islanders and I'm going Detroit. Um,
really?
yeah. I mean, this is just gut feeling, obviously, that we could be very wrong, but I think the Islanders just like they're relying too much on Sorokin, and I think the rest of the team has kind of slowed down a little bit. Like we've seen them, they still have good quality games, but I think they're the team that's kind of just like trying to scrape by to make it in.
Yeah.
Detroit, I think is still a great team. Like honestly, I feel bad putting them out there, but I think for sure the Habs are making it. I think for sure Columbus is making it. I think they've just been too hot near the end of the season.
Yes.
And Ottawa has also been on fire too, right? So like, but out of any of the teams, like if you were like, of course this team like choked and missed the playoffs, is Ottawa, right? So
That's kind of the vibe. Like, and they have been good.
yeah,
I'm conflicted to say that I think they're going to be the ones that are going to miss, but I think Detroit really feels like. I mean, they all feel like they have a chip on their shoulder that they're playing for
yeah.
something. But Detroit, like the whole thing with the Eiserman stuff, and like
Yeah,
the
to me,
Eiser
they just didn't
plan.
make enough moves to, fight for a playoff battle when the teams around them did make moves. And I think
Yeah,
this is the area of the season where that's where it kind of bites you in the dollar sign.
yeah, that's it. That's it. So in conclusion, you believe it's going to be Buffalo, Tampa, and Montreal as the 3 from the Atlantic. So
Hmm.
that's gonna. And then you think it's going to be Carolina, Pittsburgh, Columbus from the Metropolitan. And then the 2 wild card, you think it's going to be Boston and Ottawa.
Yeah.
Maybe not in that
And
order,
I feel
but I'm
bad
just
about
saying,
Boston.
like,
Yeah, yeah, not necessarily in that order, but I think those are the teams that will end up making it in.
yeah.
Obviously, a lot of this could go gravely wrong. Worst case scenario is the Habs miss the playoffs, and I'd be devastated. But
No, that I don't think is going to
yeah,
happen. Like, I think that they're really
I really
they're
want
really
Pittsburgh to make the
consistent.
playoffs too. Like I've been
I
riding
want
the
them to make it so
coattails
badly.
of Carlson and Raquel like this whole season. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm like conflicted because I've had the Hagel Kucherov
hmm,
stack this year, and it's just been so great. So I feel like they're kind of like by default my sort of non-Habs team that I'm
yeah.
like, oof,
I mean, they're
like
one of
they're
the
so
favorites to win
good.
the whole thing. So
Yeah, I know, but at the same time, like just for the story of it all, like if Pittsburgh can win, that would be like I would love to see Pittsburgh win the
it'd just be
Stanley
so
Cup.
fun.
It would be. It would be. So yeah, I really hope they don't miss it. I just like how can they keep weathering the storm? And if they do, I think they're going to be such a force in the playoffs. So
Yep. What about the
yeah,
West? The West
the
is
West.
almost just as
The,
close, to be honest.
well, the Central's a lock, a
Yeah.
complete lock. Those top 3 teams, I think, are good. One of those top 3 teams is going to make the Stanley Cup final. That's what I think. I
You
don't
never
think it's
know.
Edmonton this
You
year.
never know, but
No, I don't think it's Edmonton. I don't think it's Vegas. I don't think it's Anaheim. Like that's who the top guys are in the Pacific.
hmm,
I think that the Central is just so like those 3 teams are so dominant: Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota. So I think that's staying the way it is. I guess you could list off the ones in contention, and
yeah,
then
the ones in
we can sort of
contention
figure it
I
out.
would say are Edmonton, Vegas, Utah, Nashville, Los Angeles Kings, and Seattle. I think are the only teams. Um, and now depending how the games go between when we recorded this and when the episode comes out, it'll be like it might be a few games different. But I think in general these are the teams that are still trying to fight for it. Now I think the biggest thing is like Vegas. You would have assumed that have been a lock for a while. Edmonton too, but like they have not been in good form. So they've kind
Yeah,
of made this possible race. Like the teams behind them are only like 2 to 4 points behind. So kind of feels like the window is open there. But
yeah.
To me, I don't think Nashville is a playoff team. Like I think they're still winning games, and it's crazy, right? We've been saying it all year, but I think at this
Yeah.
point we saw them sell some pieces, so it's kind of just like I I just don't think that this is a team that, even though they held on to all their veterans, I just don't think it's in the cards for them this year. I just don't think that's their plan. Whether it happens or not, I think it happens. But I think LA is a team that has been on the bubble, that is starting to try to figure it out. And Seattle is the other team. I think I think they don't have it in them. But you never know. Like to me, Utah is like one of the stronger teams going into the end of the season, even though they do have hard matchups.
Yeah.
So if I had to bet right now who I don't think is making the playoffs, I think it's Seattle. And I think Nashville are not making the playoffs.
Seattle and Nashville are not.
Yeah.
So you think LA is?
I think LA takes Nashville's spot, and I think Seattle stays out of it.
Yeah. I actually I agree there. I think that's exactly how it's going to shake out. So we're on the same page for the West, to be honest. There's like not much more to add. I think the reason that I had LA, I think as top of the Pacific this year, so there's that. But I think that what LA did in acquiring Panarin and acquiring Lawton, like all the moves that they made, and they fired Hiller, like they're really really trying, and it just feels like they're too good of an actual team to not make it. And even though Kemper had a horrible year, they're still the team in front of them. Like if you look at this roster, like this is a very very solid NHL.
They should be
team.
a playoff team.
They should. So I think LA is gonna take Nashville's spot. So in conclusion, in no particular order, I'll just kind of like list off the way we see this. The East I see as Buffalo, Tampa, Montreal, Carolina, Columbus, Boston, New York, and Detroit. That's 8 teams, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, yeah. I think it's 8 teams.
Yeah. So that's exactly it. So then you see it as Buffalo, Tampa, Montreal, Carolina, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Boston, and Ottawa, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially the only difference there, I have the Islanders. I have the Islanders and the Red Wings over the Penguins and the Senators, right?
Yes.
That's the difference how it's split. And then in the West, we believe both of us that it's going to be Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, Anaheim, Edmonton, Vegas, Utah, and LA.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page for the West, right? So that's fun.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll just both be wrong. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. We'll see how it shakes out. It's going to be fun to listen to this and see how it goes. Let us know in the Discord or in the comments on YouTube or Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening, what you think and how it's going to shake out and why we're right or wrong.
Yes. All right. Let's get into some mailbag questions. We narrowed it down to 8 questions, all from the Discord. So if you want to ask a question, you want to hear it on the podcast, we always make a post in the Discord a few days before we record. So that's the place to be if you want to ask your question. And I guess let's get right into it. Some of these will be really fun. Brian from the Discord asked, do you guys find larger category leagues like 12 to 14 people harder than 10-man cast leagues? He says he personally thinks that 10-man leagues should be harder because most of the teams in the league are bound to have like great teams since it's quote unquote more shallower, where 12-team leagues is harder to pick because the players are more ambiguous on like who's going to be good and who's a drop and whatnot.
Yeah. So I think that there's 2 components to that question, and it's a really good one. If you're in a 10-man league, each team is pretty solid. So right there, I think the likelihood of people dropping off and not paying attention or whatever is going to be less likely because I think it's going to be, like the Atlantic Division this year, super tight. And you have no idea, like, up until the very end as to who's going to make it because you could already have, like each team is inherently going to be better than a 14-team league. And then the second component has to do with the amount of players on your waivers, right? Like in our waiver show that we do every week, we go under 40% owned to kind of cater to those leagues. But in many 10-man leagues, I believe that you can have like 50% and under solid formidable players to choose from. So I think that it's harder to rationalize picking up a guy who's lower percentage owned in a league like that. So in a way, it makes it harder. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say there's a world in which I can agree that a 10-man league is harder. One, because it's going to stay competitive for longer, and two, because your waivers are more plentiful, and it means that like, you know, finding the diamond in the rough is not as consequential because there's other guys that you have that you could pick.
I mean, for that reason, I feel like I think for sure 100% 12 and 14 man leagues are harder because
Yeah,
with
that's
how
fair.
deep they are, your decisions have more consequences, and the shallower your league is, I think the more the luck factor is high because, you know, picking between, you know, the 50th best player and the 51st best player is like way less consequential than picking between like the 120th best player and like the 121st best player. Like the difference is going to be more grave the deeper it is, and I think it
Yeah.
rewards managers that are better at, you know, planning for the future and evaluating talent of who's good on your team. Whereas like is do I feel like really rewarded if I picked like Mark Scheifele over Dylan Larkin type of thing? Like both are excellent players on a scale of 1 to 100. Like maybe one was a 95, the other one was like a 92. Like, yeah, you did the right decision, but it doesn't feel like rewarding because both were just like such good options, right? It feels like there's no wrong answer.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I see it. I just feel like because the teams are so stacked, it reduces the competitiveness and it increases the luck factor. Obviously, all these other components come into play where, like, you know, planning for schedule, off nights, and all that. But in terms of like building a good squad and like finding those diamonds in the rough on waivers, and like I think that's the rewarding, and that's how you can tell like when you're a good fantasy manager, and it makes the leagues more competitive in that way. Like the best teams, you'll know who the best teams are.
Yeah. So I think that okay, so we're kind of saying the same thing but with a different conclusion. So you're saying that because you like it's harder in a way to, you know, find the diamonds in the rough to like build a team, especially like through, you know, like kind of scouring the waiver wire for
Mm-hmm.
and seeing the potential, like that's harder. But I think that it's easier in a way because you can dedicate that time listening to Banger Management Fantasy Hockey Podcast and, you know, looking at your waivers, and by doing so you will be rewarded. Whereas you could, that's what I'm saying, this is the difference, is that you could spend that time in a 10-man league and still may not be rewarded. That's
Yeah.
why I think it's harder. It
I
could
mean,
be
I
that
think
I'm
it's
saying
harder to win because the luck factor is higher. So I think the
that's what I'm
competitiveness is
saying.
lower.
That's what I'm saying, you know what I mean? But
And
the
you want
competitiveness also,
competitiveness to be high, and you want luck to be low because then it rewards, like it means like your
yes,
actions actually have, you know, good consequences. Like your reward for making good actions, not just like reward for just like playing the league and having it go either way type of thing, you know?
by the way, I do prefer like 12 to 14
Yeah.
man teams, you know what I mean? But the reason that me, you, and Josh are always, you know, very competitive in our leagues is because we spend that time to like go above and beyond, and by doing so, uh, we gain a competitive
Hmm.
advantage. Whereas in the 10-man league, by doing that, that's why I concluded it was quote harder,
Hmm.
is because it doesn't necessarily reward you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's fun. It's a fun question with a lot of philosophy that could go
Yeah.
into it actually. But
All
yeah.
right. Next question. Both Shomi Pajot and also Joshua Firon kind of like echoed a similar sentiment on is hoarding any specific position to try to incite trades a valuable strategy? One of them, they play in a league where they only start one goalie, and some guy was like hoarding like 7 or 8 goalies because he was using them as trade bait to try to get people to trade with him. And somebody else is like, you know, they have, you know, 4 defenseman spots, and people are like drafting only the high level defensemen to start their draft so they can try to trade them away for like, you know,
Yeah.
do you think it's a
So
viable strategy, or how do you feel about that?
okay. Fantasy hockey is a binary outcome when it's all said and done. It doesn't mean you can't have fun if you don't win, but at the end of the day, you either win or you lose. So what happens is that this guy hoarding 7 or 8 goalies is not going to win his weeks because he's in a position where he's trying to like trade these guys in order to get better at other positions. This has happened in our league. We've seen this.
Yeah.
And then what happens is like the ask for those goalies is ridiculous, but realistically, you know that this guy hoarding the goalies is probably at the bottom of your league.
Yeah, and also has no
So he's
leverage.
good. Exactly. He has no leverage and he's in desperation mode. So I don't think that this is a good strategy at all. I would never do it. I like to try to build a balanced team and sort of see how it goes. Maybe there's a category I sacrifice or whatever, but usually I just try to build my team to be competitive in every single way and then kind of work from there and see how it goes on. If he just decided to do that, frankly, I mean, you as the non goalie hoarder are never in bad enough of a position that you're going to need to give up what he's requesting. He's not going to get it in return. So right away, that guy is out of it. And that means that like that's just one less manager to compete with.
I've echoed a similar sentiment in the Discord when I answered one of their questions, but it's basically like the people that try to hoard positions to trade them never end up succeeding, and it's to their own detriment. Maybe they're just trying to, some people just want to watch the world burn type of thing, like they'll hold all these goalies to try to like make everybody else's lives worse, but they'll just sit in last place and just enjoy it, I guess. I have no idea, but that strategy never works out because you're just ruining the supply and demand balance, and you're assuming people will be willing to pay because they're desperate, but they're just like the value ends up being so off balance that it just never makes sense to make those trades. And they know that if you want to succeed, you have to drop these guys because it makes no sense, right? So I'd rather just wait for you to drop the guys and pick them up instead of giving up value to try to get them off your roster, right? So it's like, okay, then the other guy's like, well, out of spite, I'm just gonna hold them, but like, okay, I'll just like stream goalies on back-to-backs or whatever, and you sit there in last place hoarding all these guys you can't fit into your lineup. So it never works out. Do never be that guy, and I never try to indulge in that guy either, right? Like we see it in fantasy football too. Some people do the same thing with quarterbacks, right? You're only starting one day, hoard like 4 or 5 quarterbacks. But like, oh yeah, people are gonna try to get good quarterbacks from me. I'll just stream the position and make do, right? So same thing for hockey.
But I guess, and the only thing I'll add is that you can do that with a category as opposed to with a position. That can work. You could be a dominant face-off wins team and like go into the year winning every league, everything, and winning every week. And then what happens is that then you can kind of trade accordingly, and you trade away one of your top face-off wins teams to a team that needs it to be competitive also, but still maintain that category. That's a little bit different. Would you agree?
Yeah, it is different. I still obviously like that just requires more context throughout the season, but nonetheless, like when you're trying to hoard a position to try to take it away from others, that just never works.
Yeah, no. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Jordari on Discord asked, if y'all had to build an all-time starting lineup for a Stanley Cup playoff run, who would it be? Said y'all can put position restrictions on this if you want to make it harder than it already is. Like skill, physicality, clutch, defensive ability, all factors in, not just most skilled.
This is a deep question.
So how about, like, we're not going to make a whole starting lineup, but how about we just do, or I guess starting lineup. So like 3 forwards, 2 defensemen, 1 goalie. And we can do it together. For like a Stanley Cup playoff run, like all time. Maybe we just do recent years so we're not like going all the way. Like, I take Gretzky, I take,
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just do like the last like 10 years-ish.
Yeah.
Very, very general.
Years. Okay, okay, classic homer answer, but that 2021 playoffs, like what Carey Price was able to do to like single-handedly win, 3 of the 4 series was nuts.
So 2021 Carey Price in the lineup. I mean, to me, it was him or Vasilevsky, just because of like the dominant run we've seen in the playoffs from him.
Yeah, exactly. McDavid, any given year, I think has to be there.
Even without the cup, like you just feel like you got to put him there. Like just what he's done in the last like 2-3 years is enough to just have me be like, I need him on my team when it's clutch time.
Yeah, so they're hanging out over there. That's pretty good. I mean, I guess like this is a deep cut, like it can't count, but like Alec Martinez scoring that really clutch goal over LA.
That's not counting.
That doesn't count. Okay, that's fair. Okay,
I mean, you gotta put
we got those
there,
two,
right? Like
you have to put Kucherov there.
Kuch.
Yeah, you definitely
Would you put
have
Ovi?
to put Kuch.
Left wing Ovi?
But I will say Kuch when they won the Stanley Cup. That's like a big caveat. Sam Bennett from last year.
Nah.
He's gone. Are you kidding?
Okay, not over McDavid.
No, but it's 3 forwards.
Okay, but I mean, I'm trying to make a line out here,
Sam Bennett like had 15 goals in 23 games in the playoffs last year. That was I don't know if you remember how crazy it was.
It was nuts.
Absolutely automatic. He was completely automatic. I have to put him there. I'm sorry. Like, I feel
Sam
like
Bennett in the top 3. Okay, listen,
I know that sounds nuts, but
it does sound nuts.
honestly, I mean, look, like I don't want to overload it with like the obvious McKinnon, McDavid, Draisaitl. I feel like that's just like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I'm gonna put Bennett there. I feel like that's like
for the sake of not spending
name.
1 hour on this topic, I'll agree with you. But let's go defenseman.
Yeah. Defenseman, that's a good one. Rasmus Dahlin this coming year.
Yeah.
I feel like,
I hope. Listen,
I feel like
fingers.
he's just ready to just go hard.
Would you say just for like the tenure of like production, would you put Victor Hedman there, even though this year is like the reverse of that?
Really? I have trouble doing that, to be honest.
Really?
I have trouble putting I feel like, I mean, I guess like it does make sense, but I don't know. Erik Karlsson's been huge in the playoffs for
it's true.
The past 2 times he was in the playoffs. I mean, we're dealing with 10 years ago. The Senators, he got 18 points in 19 games when they made their Stanley Cup run. And then with San Jose, when they made theirs, it was 16 points in 19 games.
So, yeah, I mean, he's always very productive. And maybe this season he carries Pittsburgh to another Stanley Cup final. Who knows? Oh, we got to put Crosby.
I guess I get it over Sam Bennett. Like, are you
it's
sure?
close, but
are you sure? I mean, yeah, Crosby's, but okay, fine.
It was longer ago than what Sam Bennett did last year or whatever. So
2017, 2018, he got 21 points in 12 games.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Crosby's
fine.
there. I want to put Victor Hedman. I feel like Victor Hedman is just like, even if he's not like the best power play quarterback, let's say, for example, I just think like what he has on the ice in terms of like being a good defenseman as well in the leadership. I know this year is like completely falling off the rails, but like we're talking previous. And maybe Erik Karlsson, if to your point, but I mean we're missing so many names. We're not going to spend so much time on this, but I think that's a good lineup.
Yeah, I think. What is the final like Sam Bennett as a healthy scratch?
Yes, Sam Bennett will be the healthy scratch, and McKinnon's in also a healthy scratch. But to me, it's like Crosby, McDavid, Kucherov. You know, let's say Erik Karlsson and Victor Hedman with a carry price from 2021. Sorry, not 2001.
That's or all the players we mentioned, just none of them, and just Patrick Maroon.
Sure. If we're counting the Stanley Cups,
Pat Maroon was unstoppable.
Wait, but
for
Jordan
so
Binnington
long.
from that season over Carey Price.
Yeah, Pat Maroon and Binnington, just them two could take on the entire world.
All right. Well, we unfortunately have to move on to the next question, but Joshua Firon also asked, how different are the teams you drafted from the teams you have now? Like, did 80% of your roster survive? Did like the bottom few picks turn into streamers? Did trades massively shake up the team? Like, he said going into the playoffs, he had 10 of 16 of his players in one league and 8 of 16 of his players in the other league. So almost half of his players swapped between like the draft and like the end of the season.
Okay, let me actually count. I'm curious because I feel like the top team in our league. I was about to say, I was like, if your team's not at least 50% different, then it means you're not dedicating enough time to fantasy.
Yeah.
Yet the top team in our league made what? Like
I mean, they made a blockbuster trade in the beginning of the season that and they might still end up winning the league. Who knows?
Who? I'm talking about the guy who ended up in first place.
Yeah.
The guy who ended up in first place barely made any moves, and he's done.
He made one move
tremendously well,
and I think he regrets it. Kind of. I don't know. I got Doro.
Yeah. All this to say, I think your team, if you're a dedicated manager, should be about like 50% different. Who is still on my team? I have. Yeah, not a lot. It's definitely less than
we have
20%.
We have 20 lineup spots plus some IRs. Let me count how many people I do that were not on my team when I drafted.
Yeah, I have 7 of the 20 players. That's nothing. That's like
10 of my players were not on my roster when I drafted. That's through trades 50-50? Or pickups. Yeah,
I have 35% of my squad. From the beginning, and one of them is Jason Zucker, who I dropped and then picked up again.
He was still on your team when you drafted, so that doesn't count.
What do you mean?
Like, you drafted him, right?
I did draft him.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I dropped him, and then I picked him up. So I have 7 of the 20 players.
Yeah, no, so almost half as well. Like and that's a good thing, right? Like that means you're making it far into the playoffs. Like if you look at the standings in your leagues, I've done this, analysis before, but there's a strong correlation between like the amount of moves you make and the success you have. And like if you look at the playoff teams and you look at the non-playoff teams, the playoff teams tend to have like significantly more, waiver moves throughout the season than the bottom half. And it's just because the more active you are, the more you're keeping up with the trends, the more you're making those tough decisions on like this guy's out of form, this guy's in form, and we make the swap. And that's why you build better fantasy teams.
Absolutely.
Okay, next question. Camino asked, this one's directed to Josh, so Josh, if you will, please answer this question. He alludes to his spreadsheet a lot. How do you incorporate the anticipated category stats within your Excel? Is it automated or manual update, or do you take the last season average or just plug it in for the whole year? He says he wants to up mine from this year, and that's the next step. So I have my own model as well. I refer to it not as often as Josh does to his, but I know Josh pulls season average stats consistently, so he's just always looking at that. I have more of a manual approach. I try to like mimic the stats of the players that are in form. So like if the last 14 days is more representative of a player's like anticipated value for my week matchup, then I'll use that as opposed to like the season stats, because deployments change and something's not relevant anymore. So I usually have a manual approach of like last 14 days, last 30 days, season average, and I consistently update that. And then I do the averages times the amount of games they're going to play in the week, and it gives me like a rough estimate of like what I should expect from my team going into this following week's matchup, and I plan accordingly. And also I will say that early in the season, I tend to use previous season data to, populate my model at the start, like the first like 2-3 weeks, let's say, until like things start averaging out and you have a good enough sample size of like what this new season looks like. So that's what I would do. Maybe in the off season we make a little tool on like, put our models, and like maybe we make it a Patreon tier or something like and offer it if you guys want to use our models and like up your fantasy level. That can be maybe something that we offer if people are really interested.
I guess the only thing I'll add to that is that the situational circumstances are huge in this factor, right? I mean, after I picked up Chinikov on Columbus was totally different than Chinikov on Pittsburgh. And that's like also like an intra-team deployment situation that it could really change. Like some guy goes from line 4 power play 2 to line 1 power play 1. Like it really does change. So even if you do use the models, like don't follow them religiously.
All right, we'll do this as the last question. Guy81 in the Discord asked, are you guys making or joining any fantasy pools for the playoffs? If so, what format are you playing in? He created a format with his friends where he chooses 4 teams in the East and the West, and then we pick a player from each team we picked, and after it's like 1 points, I think he said, and after it's 1 point a win, 2 points a goal, 1 point an assist, and then he just said he's curious to hear what we do. We usually do one. We do one pool every year. Jake usually runs it.
It's really a good system. So all the backstory is that I wanted to implement something, and this was during COVID, where it's like the hockey season abruptly ended, and then they were bringing it back for the bubble, and it was a whole thing. And like I was like, hey, we got to do something because the fantasy season can't just end like that.
I know. We always want more hockey, more fantasy hockey.
Yeah. So what happened is I suggested we do something where it was like you actually pick a draft of players, and it's sort of the same thing as like a snake draft as you would do, where you pick players from teams, obviously only the playoff teams, and then as the rounds go on, you'd get eliminated. So the success was really depending on also the team success. But then someone suggested what we do instead is like kind of a blind draft of sorts, not even draft, just a selection, where let's say, just for this example, I could pick my team, could have McKinnon, McDavid, etc. Then Kevin could have his same players, but you have 10 forwards, 4 defensemen, and 2 goalies, and then by the time the playoffs start, everyone's team is revealed and you see how it's going. Now, the issue I thought was, everyone's going to have a similar team. They're just going to pick the top players. But we've had years and years of this where there's been like 20-ish teams in the leagues, ranging between, let's say, 15 and 25. And it's never been that one team exactly replicated the next. So it was actually really cool. I mean, I guess like if you're dealing with like 100 teams or whatever, like Yeah, maybe there's going
bound
to
to
be
be
one
some overlap.
Yeah, but there's always overlap. Like everyone always has McDavid and Draisaitl, you
Yeah.
know. But it's really the way that you kind of separate it. Is last year I'm pretty sure the winner was the only one who had Sam Bennett on his team,
Yeah.
as an example. So it's really cool because it's contingent on the team's success and also the player's success. Like you don't want to go too many teams because if you go, just the best player from every team, then someone who has, let's say last year Florida, who went deeper than Tampa Bay, if you just picked, Kucherov and Barkov, it wouldn't have done as well as picking, let's say, Barkov and Bennett. So it's a really cool mix. That's what we do. And then there's also the just the brackets that you can get on NHL.
Yeah, I love making a bracket. We will 100% run a banger management bracket challenge. I think that'll be really fun. Maybe we give a prize to the winner or something, like a free entry into the banger management leagues next year or something like that. But I think that the system that we have is really fun because it's different from like the regular fantasy we play throughout the whole season. So like Jakey said, like you're basically just picking guys, and you want to like, you don't want to spread yourself too thin. Like if you just pick the best players on every team, maybe you'll have a really good round one, but then after that, as people start getting eliminated, you're really diluting the amount of points that you're going to be able to get later in the playoffs. So you kind of want to like consolidate into like maybe 3 to 5 teams on the teams you think will make it the furthest, and pick the best players on those teams. And then listen, not everybody thinks the same teams are going to make it all the way in, right? And maybe one team has Sam Bennett and somebody else has a Verhaeghe, like we've seen in recent years, type of thing, right? And the difference between one of those is maybe the difference maker on who makes it further, right? So it's very fun.
Exactly. And I've also seen where people try to pick like one team from the East, one team from the West, load up 50-50 on those teams, and
just hope both teams make it to the Stanley Cup final.
And like, let's say it's like you pick Carolina and Colorado, but you don't pick McDavid. McDavid goes to the semis, loses to Colorado, goes to the finals. Like 3 series of McDavid is probably gonna do like
2 series of McDavid could be better than the 7th player you're picking on the team that makes the finals.
Yeah, like I am very confident that if McDavid goes 3 series in the playoffs, he's gonna outscore Kadri in 4.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's like people really have to kind of there's like a whole system, and I haven't found the right answer yet.
Yeah,
I've
gotten pretty close, I know I've never made it there.
People have used AI to try to come up with their teams, and they don't win. So AI has not outsmarted us.
I would never let AI pick my fantasy teams. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So like AI is not like more sophisticated than the human approach to this. So all this to say, it's really fun. We'll see what we end up doing, but the bracket challenge that I'm really excited about because I feel like I do not do well at that. It's not my forte, but it's always fun. It's always fun to see why. That way.
And Josh always makes his bracket. Every year he just does one bracket and he puts the Habs as the Stanley Cup champion. So one year he'll be right, and that year it'll be pretty fun.
That's it. Okay. Thank you to everyone for listening to our Week 23 Hot Topics and Mailbag episode. If you enjoyed and you're watching on YouTube, give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, rate us 5 stars, comment, like, whatever your platform, does to show support. We really do appreciate it. All the socials are in the podcast description, and the link to the aforementioned Discord community is there as well. Anything
follow,
Fache?
follow, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. It's the fantasy championship either this week or next week. So, listen, we're putting on our seatbelts and we're on for the ride, and hopefully, we all taken to the promised land.
Yeah. Good luck to everyone. Do you want to do the outro jingle today?
Of course I do. I'm very confident.
You go.
All right. Now, Banger Management Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Woo! Woo!
That's what I'm talking about.
That was good, but I had some energy there.